Hi everyone! In today's video I'll show you how I made this miniature garden set, which I used in a real mini plant arrangement or fairy garden if you want. With this project I'm killing two birds with a stone. First off, on my channel there's a very badly done short on how I made this garden set here for my miniature greenhouse, and I've been thinking about remaking it because it's really too short and not very detailed. The process is the same, except that for the greenhouse set I used coffee stirrers for the tabletop and the back and the seat of the chair instead of cardboard. Second, I've been wanting to create a miniature scene with terrarium plants for a while to display with my indoor ferns. So as always, I started by drawing a life-size sketch with all the measurements. For the metal parts, believe it or not, I have used some metal rods from a chimney brush like this one. This is a random picture I found online, but it's the same product I purchased at my local hardware store. So I literally dismantled the thing and ended up with a bunch of metal rods, which were perfect for my project. They are quite sturdy, but also flexible enough to be bent and twisted, which is something I'll have to do later, and can also be cut with relative ease. Now back to the sketch. Basically what I'll do for both the table and the chair is laying the rods directly onto the sketch and cutting them accordingly. For the part that supports the tabletop, I need two bits. As you can see, I had to use some heavy-duty snippers because my normal craft snippers were not strong enough. So I cut out two pieces, and before gluing them I carefully scratch the surface with a nail file. This way the glue will adhere better. Then I glue them together so that they form an L shape, like so. Next I cut out the two legs, making sure that the bottom part have an angular cut. Again, before gluing, I scratch the surface to get a stronger bond, both on the top part and in the center where the two legs overlap. I make two identical pieces, and then to imitate the bolts I use a bit of air drying clay, roll out 6 tiny balls and glue them in place, that is to say where the two rods overlap. Then I make the tabletop. It has a diameter of 5.2 centimeters, so I set my compass to half this length and draw a circle on a piece of cardboard from food packaging. Next, I draw another smaller circle and 4 straight lines, which only have a decorative purpose. With this dotting tool, I go over the 4 lines and the inner circle to create a slight indentation in the cardboard. I cut it out, and now that I have the 3 main pieces, I can paint them. Later I will also need some wire and one more rod, which will be cut to measure, so for now I'm setting these aside and just paint the legs and the top. I'm using acrylic paint, although I would suggest you to use something more waterproof like nail polish or varnish, which I didn't have in the color I needed, so I just had to make do with what I had. Once they're nice and dry, I glue the legs, making sure that they are perpendicular to the straight lines of the top and also that the legs are aligned with the top edge like so. Okay, almost ready. Now to give some extra stability, I take one more rod, the one I was mentioning before, and directly on the table, turned upside down, I measure the length of the two pieces that will link the leg junctions and the top. I also cut out two pieces of wire, then paint and glue the 4 bits. And the table is done. The chair is made with the same method. The only difference is that I have to bend and twist the rod that support the bag. And for this, I'm using these 2 pairs of pliers. And this is the final result. The rest of the process is the same as the table, basically. As a side note, I want to quickly mention that soldering the pieces would actually be the best solution. I have tried soldering many times, both with a soldering station and a torch, but unfortunately I'm just not skilled enough. The joints end up looking rather messy, the general end result is quite poor, and I'm also scared of burning my fingers. So for me, from my personal experience, the time and effort are just not worth it. Although I wish I could do it because it's way more sturdy than glue, so if you can do it, I would highly recommend it. The other half of the chair is built flipped so that the 2 pieces are symmetrical and not identical twins. Then I add the bolts made of air drying clay and paint everything. And when I build the chair, I'll make sure that the bolts are facing outwards this way. For the back, I use the same cardboard from before, draw a rectangle with rounded corners, draw one central decorative line, and basically repeat the same steps as for the tabletop. The same also for the seat, although in this case the bolts will be added later. And lastly, I assemble the chair. To keep the 2 metal sides aligned and straight, I first used a couple of mini cloth spins and later some air drying clay. The very last bit is a section of wire which links the 2 sides. a second layer of super glue to strengthen everything, and I'm done. And now the fun part, the mini plants. These were sold as terrarium plants at the garden center, but in my experience, if you provide them with enough moisture, they don't necessarily need to stay inside a proper glass terrarium. Now, of course, the plants will eventually outgrow the pot, and I'll have to dismantle this little fairy garden, repot the plants, and possibly use the garden set in another miniature project. But for now, I'm just enjoying this composition as it is. I also added a little ceramic pot I made myself, but I couldn't find a real plant that was tiny enough to fit in. And these are my indoor ferns, which will make a nice jungle-looking background for this red garden set. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you liked it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!